truths so sacred, they tremble at the edge of sound, meant not to be spoken, but guarded in the vault of silence. Words are not harmless. They are spells, casting light or summoning shadow. When you walk the path of higher knowing, you learn that some truths, once voiced, unravel protection. In a world addicted to sharing, silence becomes your sanctuary. Every word you whisper, every secret you reveal, is an opening, and not every presence that enters is divine. If you've ever felt unseen resistance stir the moment you spoke your truth, know this, it wasn't coincidence. You cracked a door, and something answered. Now you understand. That quiet heaviness you carry? It's not confusion, it's calling. You're not just a drifting soul, you are marked, set apart by design, chosen not for comfort, but for depth. That ache for silence, that pull away from noise, that sacred instinct to protect what stirs within you, it's not paranoia. It's spiritual discernment. And if you're still here, still listening, it's because you feel it in your bones. Some truths are veiled not because they are false, but because they are too potent, too radiant, too divine to be mishandled by the unready. There is a holiness in what you carry. And sometimes, to protect the light, you must walk quietly in shadow. Let us now walk through 7 truths too holy to be spoken lightly. Each one is not just insight, it is armor, forged for those walking barefoot through a world that no longer reveres the sacred. Understand this, not all wisdom was meant to echo in public spaces. Some revelations strike like lightning, divine, searing, uncontainable. But when such brilliance is handed to those who cannot see, they recoil, they mock, they turn away. The visions you've been given are not for their applause. They are sacred scrolls etched into the marrow of your being, meant to guide your path, not entertain the crowd. When you share such holy fire too freely, to share recklessly is to place a crown in the hands of someone who sees only its weight, never its worth. The danger isn't just in being misunderstood, it's in being misused. What arrived to you in sacred clarity can be twisted into confusion by those not ready to hold it. Not always out of cruelty, but simply because it was never theirs to understand. Ancient wisdom whispers, do not cast your pearls before swine. Pearls are not cheap treasures, they are born of pressure, formed in darkness, layered by a being who has learned to turn pain into beauty. Why then? Why cast your pearls before those who neither see their glow nor grasp their price? You've felt it, haven't you? That sting when something holy leaves your lips, only to be met with blank stares, or worse, polite dismissal. That aching silence after offering your heart to someone unequipped to hold it. But these are not failures, they are sacred instructions. The more divine the insight, the more fiercely you must guard it. A prophet speaks only when the moment demands it. And you, yes, you, whether you see it fully yet or not, have been entrusted with messages not for the crowd, but for the calling. Practice spiritual discretion, it is the art of inner guardianship. Speak not when you're prompted by the world, but only when stirred by the soul. Let your voice rise only when the inner bell tolls, not when idle curiosity knocks. The insights you've received are not ornaments for display, they are ancient keys, forged for specific doors, not meant to rattle uselessly on social feeds or sit unnoticed on casual tongues. Let them rest within you, undisturbed, until the moment of alignment arrives. And as you learn to protect these inner treasures, a deeper truth is revealed. It's not only the words you release, but the wounds you unveil that can either strengthen you or leave you vulnerable to those who do not yet understand your light. To carry great light is to cast a long shadow, and to attract those drawn not only to your glow, but to your cracks. The moment you choose the higher path, your presence becomes a signal, revered by some, resisted by others. Often not loudly, but subtly, invisibly. Even the most awakened souls have tender places, fractures in the vessel where their humanity shows through. These are not flaws, they are proof that the divine chose a living, breathing heart, not a perfect mask. But when those sacred wounds are revealed carelessly, they can become entry points for energies that do not come to heal, but to feed. Vulnerability, when offered without discernment, is not always received with love. Responds to vulnerability with compassion. Sometimes it awakens appetite. In the unseen realms, vulnerability isn't just emotional, it's energetic. To open yourself is to lower your shield, and not every smiling face is benevolent. Not every listening ear is a sanctuary. Some come close not to comfort, but to collect, storing your fears, your doubts, your sacred wounds like currency, to be used when you least expect it. Whether knowingly or unconsciously, there are those who act as spiritual siphons, feeding off your openness, drawn to the fractures in your light. This is why discernment is not optional, it is essential. Because not everyone is meant to witness your breaking points, because not everyone holds the spiritual maturity to honor them. Guarding your inner sanctum is not about closing yourself to the world, it's about becoming deeply intentional. Vulnerability, when placed in the hands of the worthy, is alchemy. But when handed to the careless, it becomes a wound waiting to be reopened. Think of the ancient temples, surrounded by sacred walls, entered only by the purified, guarded not out of fear, but reverence. Your soul is no different. It is a temple, a holy ground. And not everyone should be given the keys. Your emotional thresholds, your silent battles, your sacred confessions, these are not meant for public consumption. They are meant for the inner circle, those chosen not by proximity, but by spiritual resonance. Even Jesus understood this truth. In the Garden of Gethsemane, on the eve of his greatest anguish, he did not summon the masses. He chose only a few. And even they, though beloved, could not stay awake with him in his hour of need. This was not a failure, but a divine reminder. Not everyone, even among the trusted, is equipped to hold the weight of your soul. And that's not a reason to close your heart, it's a reason to guard it with holy discernment. Space for your pain. So let go of the illusion that closeness means safety. Proximity does not equal purity. Time, more than words, reveals the hearts of those around you. Let silence be your sacred sieve until someone has proven, not with charm, but with consistency, that they are worthy of your truth. Because energetic openness in unsafe spaces doesn't just bruise your emotions, it compromises your spirit. There are forces that move quietly, wearing familiar faces, looking for entry through the fractures we neglect. When you voice your doubts, your fears, your sacred insecurities before those who carry hidden envy or unhealed shadows, you open the door to more than just judgment, you invite interference. Not all battles are visible. Not all wounds bleed. Blindness in others can amplify the very wounds you're working so hard to heal. What you speak, you breathe life into. And what you share with the unprepared may grow distorted in their hands. Guard your words in the company of those who have not yet proven they can hold your heart without wounding it. But don't let this make you cold. Let it make you wise. Carry your vulnerability like a sacred scroll, gently, reverently, and only unrolled when the divine gives you the signal. Your cracks do not make you broken, they make you real. And when covered in discernment, they become your strength. You were never called to bleed for validation. You are called to rise, whole and holy, clothed in the quiet power of inner knowing. You were never called to bleed in front of crowds. You are called to heal in stillness, rise in strength, and speak only from the wellspring of wholeness. Every soul carries a frequency, but yours, shaped by the sacred path you walk, hums at a different resonance. People feel it before you speak. It's not charisma. It's not charm. It's presence. And true presence is silent power. But power, when left unguarded, becomes a target. As one who has been marked, chosen, refined, you carry an energy that magnetizes. Not only to those who seek the light, but also to those who crave it for all the wrong reasons. Some will approach you with open hearts. Others will arrive with open hands and hungry spirits, not to rise with you, but to take from you. And these moments of spiritual siphoning are rarely obvious. It might be the friend who always needs your wisdom, but never holds space for your pain. The coworker who eagerly receives your light, only to toss it aside. the seeker who praises your insight but leaves you feeling hollow. They don't all come to harm, but they do come to feed. They draw from your time, your clarity, your peace, and leave you with exhaustion disguised as service. You tell yourself you're just helping. You tell yourself you're just being kind, answering the call on your life. But giving without discernment isn't compassion, it's quiet self-sacrifice. And eventually, the strain begins to show. Not because you're fragile, but because you've been pouring into vessels never meant to hold your light. You've been feeding the uninvited. Yes, spiritual parasites exist. They're not cloaked in shadows or nightmares, they wear familiar faces. They are people with unhealed wounds, stagnant souls, or subtle envy buried beneath a smile. They are drawn to your light not to honor it, but to absorb it, to consume it. And when your exhaustion becomes chronic, when your peace feels constantly interrupted, if you walk away from a conversation feeling drained, if you're emotionally scattered after a meeting, or spiritually dulled by someone's presence, pay attention. These aren't just mood swings. They are signals. Your spirit is alerting you. This person isn't pouring into you, they're pulling from you. You were never called to be everyone's healer. You weren't chosen to be a well for every thirsty soul. Even Jesus, who held infinite power, didn't pour himself out at every opportunity. He withdrew. He rested. He chose with discernment. There is divine wisdom in limitation. Protecting your energy isn't selfish, it's sacred stewardship. It's not selfish, it's strategic. Every drop you give should flow from overflow, not depletion. When your spirit whispers no, honor it. Set boundaries without explanation or guilt. Those who truly love you will respect your limits. Those who don't, they were only ever drawn to the flame, not the fire keeper. You cannot feed everyone and still nourish your own soul. A starved spirit cannot fulfill sacred assignments. So stay vigilant. Notice the patterns. Trust the pull. And when needed, step back. Remember, silence is a response. Distance is a boundary. Guard your light, not from fear, but from reverence. Because what you carry is holy, and not everyone is meant to touch it. Understand this, your light was never meant to burn for just anyone. Let it shine, yes, but only where it will be honored, not harvested. Some speak with volume, others with presence. And if you've ever noticed the room shift when you walk in, if silence deepens, eyes subtly turn, or emotions stir without reason, it's not coincidence. It's resonance. Spiritual resonance. Your presence carries weight. Not because you're loud, but because you're aligned. It doesn't entertain, it awakens. It doesn't always comfort, it confronts. As one who's been chosen, your presence is not decoration, it's disruption. A divine interruption in spaces that forgot the sacred. Your presence is not just your body, it's your vibration. It's the silent pulse of your spirit echoing through every space you enter. And because it moves before you speak, it must be protected. Presence is power. And power, left unguarded, attracts projections. Some will project awe. Others will mirror their insecurities, resentment, or unspoken envy. They may never voice it, but you'll feel it. The chill in a conversation. The invisible weight in a crowded room. The sense of being seen, but not truly known. These subtle reactions aren't random, they're energetic responses to the frequency you carry. These aren't coincidences, they're spiritual indicators. Clues that your presence has been registered in the unseen. And not all who notice respond with purity. When you walk in divine alignment, you don't just enter rooms, you shift atmospheres. That shift can either awaken healing or stir hidden resistance. Your very existence becomes a mirror, reflecting back what others haven't faced in themselves. This is why your presence must be treated as sacred ground. Being selective with where you go and who you sit with isn't arrogance, it's energetic preservation. Some spaces carry spiritual residue, and the more sensitive your soul, the more it absorbs what others ignore. The soul absorbs more than we see. Environments steeped in gossip, chaos, envy, or spiritual numbness don't just disturb your peace, they erode it. You might enter feeling clear and grounded, only to leave confused, heavy, disconnected from your center. Pay attention. Wherever you go, you carry your essence, and that essence is sacred. Where it's placed, it will either flourish or fade. You are never meant to belong to every room. You are meant to be in the right rooms. The ones where your presence is honored, not resisted. Where your spirit is received, not extracted. In a world that glorifies noise, solitude becomes your sanctuary. Because when the world gets too loud, the truly wise don't shout, they retreat. The great spiritual figures of history didn't withdraw out of weakness, they withdrew to renew. They stepped away not to escape the world, but to re-enter it with clarity. You must do the same. Solitude is not absence, it is alignment. It allows your presence to recalibrate, your energy to cleanse, your soul to return to its original rhythm. In stillness, you remember who you are, unshaped by noise, untouched by projection. Protecting your presence sometimes means disappearing for a while, not out of neglect, but out of necessity. You do not owe everyone your presence. Sometimes the holiest thing you can do is step back to protect the sacred within you. Presence is a privilege, a sacred offering. And like all sacred things, it loses its power when handed out carelessly. Be intentional about where you show up, and even more intentional about who gets close. The sacred is powerful because it's set apart. Your presence is not common, so don't treat it like it is. When you truly understand that even your silence carries a frequency, you'll stop walking into rooms just to prove you belong. In a world addicted to noise, opinions, arguments, commentary, silence is rebellion. It is sovereignty. It is spiritual discipline. Sometimes, the loudest message you'll ever speak is your refusal to speak at all. Silence is not the absence of voice, it is the presence of mastery. As a chosen one, your silence is not weakness. It is strategy. It carries a gravity that few can comprehend because true silence doesn't seek approval, it commands respect. It does not explain. It simply is. When your presence is rooted in truth, there is no need to convince, defend, or persuade. Let others fill the void with noise. Let them chase validation through volume. Your silence speaks louder than any argument ever could. Because there are moments when speaking is not just unwise, it's dangerous. Not because of the words themselves, but because of the sacred power they might unleash. Words are energy, living currents that summon reactions, forge attachments, and send ripples through the unseen. Once released, they cannot be recalled. Not every thought is worthy of becoming vibration. Not every truth demands a voice. Sometimes, the most powerful act is restraint. When you choose silence in the face of accusation, mockery, or spiritual blindness, you do more than preserve your dignity, you protect your frequency. The world will bait you to defend, to explain, to justify. But these are traps laid for those who've forgotten who they are. The moment you lower yourself into fruitless debate, you abandon the altitude of your calling. Remember the sacred example of Christ. Before his accusers, he stood in sovereign stillness, not because he lacked truth, but because truth does not argue with ignorance. His silence wasn't weakness, it was a shield, a divine mirror exposing the hollowness of their accusations. That same sacred silence lives within you. You are not obligated to clarify what the blind cannot see. You owe no defense for your alignment with the divine. Let them talk. Let them guess. Their confusion is not your responsibility. Your silence is protection, a cloak that conceals you when exposure would only invite harm. There is a sacred mystery born in silence. In stillness, revelation flows like a river. Clarity rises. Discernment sharpens. When the static of the world finally fades, the whisper of spirit roars like thunder. Silence is not emptiness, it is the language of heaven. It vibrates with divine frequency, carrying instructions that can't be heard in the noise. Most miss it because they're addicted to sound, desperate to fill the void. But those who honor the quiet become instruments of alignment. Your silence becomes a tuning fork, calibrating your soul to the vibration of truth. True wisdom lives in silence. When you let stillness speak for you, everything shifts. Your authority deepens. Your spiritual signal sharpens. And your enemies? They lose all access to your energy. Silence is not the absence of voice, it is the presence of sovereignty. Practice it not as a retreat, but as a sacred discipline. In a world addicted to oversharing, be the anomaly, guard your soul like a temple. Let your quiet disturb the chaos. Let your stillness speak volumes. Let your restraint unveil what noise tries so desperately to hide. Because when one who knows how to be silent finally speaks, the world listens. The world will have no choice but to listen when you've mastered the art of restraint. Discretion isn't secrecy born from fear, it is wisdom born from reverence. As a chosen one, not everything about you is meant for the spotlight. The world preaches that visibility equals value, that to prove your worth, you must perform your soul. But spiritual maturity whispers a deeper truth: what is sacred must be shielded, not showcased. Your revelations, your healing, your divine instructions, they aren't content for the masses. They are the blueprint of your purpose. Holy, intimate, meant to be lived, not flaunted. Blueprints are never unveiled in the middle of construction. To expose a divine moment too early is to invite contamination. What is spoken in excitement can fall into ears that were never meant to hear it. Not all harm is intentional, but doubt, envy, or simple misunderstanding can still fracture the sacred flow of what God is building within you. Your progress is like a newborn flame, fragile, flickering, holy. In its early stages, it needs shelter, not spotlight. When exposed too soon to the winds of opinion, pressure, and expectation, that flame risks being extinguished before it ever becomes fire. Commentary is wind, and your flame is still young. If you expose it too early, it may be extinguished before it ever becomes light. Your dreams don't need applause, they need soil. They need depth, darkness, and time. Your revelations aren't meant for retweets, they're meant to take root. Even your relationships, especially the sacred ones, require secrecy to survive. Some connections are divine assignments, meant to blossom in the quiet, away from eyes that judge before they understand. When you announce every bond, every move, every unfolding plan, you don't just open doors to people, you open portals to spiritual interference. The unseen realm listens, too. And every revelation spoken aloud becomes a signal, not just to those who love you, but to energies that seek to disrupt. A revelation made in haste is like casting gold before it's been purified. It becomes ammunition for doubt, distortion, and delay. Move like the moon, quiet, constant, unseen in its fullness until the night is ready. Build in the unseen. Let your results rise like dawn, undeniable and unannounced. Success born in silence holds an authority that no loud declaration can mimic. Holiness is not just in your prayers, it's in your privacy. It's in the sacred borders you draw around your purpose. When you treat your path as divine territory, others have no choice but to step carefully. Discretion isn't withholding, it's honoring. It trains the world to respect what you carry. It becomes a spiritual shield, a silent force field around your assignment, keeping it safe until it can stand in the light without fear of being shattered. In stillness, your power consolidates. In quiet, your spirit deepens. And through discretion, you send a clear message to both realms seen and unseen that what dwells within you is sacred, not to be touched by unclean hands or casual minds. Power without self-mastery is chaos cloaked in divinity. It's a blazing sword in the grip of an untrained child, brilliant, yes, but reckless and wounding. True spiritual authority demands more than visions and gifts. It demands dominion over the inner terrain. Emotions, when left untended, become thieves. They blur your vision, cloud your discernment, and sabotage your divine timing. The chosen path does not merely require awakening, it demands refinement. Divine timing does not operate at the mercy of your emotions. Emotions are not the enemy, but they were never meant to be the leader. To walk in spiritual authority is to dethrone emotion from the seat of command and install discernment in its place. You must become the governor of your reactions, not their prisoner. This mastery begins with observation. Not suppression, not denial, but sacred awareness. Become the watcher of your emotional terrain. Emotions are sacred messengers, not sovereign rulers. Anger, fear, grief, even joy, each carries a whisper from the soul. But they are signals, not instructions. Ask, why am I feeling this? What inner belief or wound is this emotion revealing? Because the emotion you feel is rarely the root, it is the fruit. And if you trace the branch long enough, you'll find the belief that bore it. It wasn't just a burst of emotion, it was a breach of alignment. One moment of unchecked feeling cost him a lifetime of journey. Let that be a lesson. Even the chosen are not exempt from the discipline of emotional mastery. To be entrusted with divine power is to be held to divine responsibility. You must not only hear from God, but respond in accordance with His rhythm, not your reaction. Emotional obedience is sacred obedience. Because every emotion carries potential either to anchor you deeper in your calling or to pull you off course. This is why silence, discretion, and self-awareness are not just spiritual practices, they are spiritual protection. You are not here to be ruled by waves. You are here to walk on them. Doubts will rise to the surface, begging for attention. But when you respond from presence rather than impulse, you remain aligned with your purpose. That is the mark of true spiritual maturity, not detachment, but dominion. You feel everything, yet you're moved by nothing but divine instruction. Emotional mastery is not suppression. It's transmutation. You take the rawness of anger, the ache of sorrow, the pulse of fear, and instead of reacting, you refine it into insight, direction, power. This is how spiritual warriors are forged. Not by avoiding emotion, but by mastering it. Walk not with loud proclamations, but with quiet power. Their strength lies not in how much they reveal, but in how much they restrain. The chosen understand that timing is divine, and exposure too soon can become erosion. So they wait. They watch. They listen. They follow the inner rhythm of the spirit rather than the external drumbeat of the world. This is the paradox of true spiritual authority, hidden yet seen, quiet yet commanding, still yet unstoppable. Your safety, your clarity, your calling, they all flourish when your emotional world is ruled by wisdom, not waves. The chosen walk among many, but are guided by higher laws. These secrets aren't about hiding. They're about honoring what's holy. Let your life speak more than your lips. Let your energy announce what your mouth does not. And above all, let your connection to the divine shape every word you say and every secret you keep. That is the only way to stay spiritually safe.